So today we're going to talk about the how we call it the romantic era of chess. Well, I have to confess this is one of my favorite, because okay, some people may think, although I hope there are very few of them, okay, in the early years of chess they sacrificed everything and there are a lot of very famous games, they didn't have much of an idea. I think it's basically the opposite. They were incredible players, and how should we and why we should study these players and how we should study their games. So the first games which I think you should start analyze are from the 19th century, and there was a lot of incredible players from the 19th century. We are still a little bit early before the let's call the first official world champion, who was Steinitz, I think, in 1886. There was like the chess genius Paul Morphy, who went to Europe, defeated everyone, only Stanton didn't want to play with him. This was in 1858, and got back and never played again. And there were, before him, incredible players which were known. For example, Anderssen, he is known for a lot of games like the Immortal game, the Evergreen game. But I really know by memory some of incredible games of his which are very, very modern games. Like one with Loewenthal. I can even reproduce it by memory. It's incredible game, positional sacrifice of a piece, a very modern attack. But also him, Morphy, and some other players like Louis Paulsen. Louis Paulsen not only played the Paulsen, clearly the famous line, the Sicilian, but maybe it's not known that he also played the dragons. He was the first good player who started playing the actual dragon in its pure form, with d6, knight f6 and g6. Like the game I've mentioned, just to tell you one curious thing, between Anderssen and Loewenthal, Johann Loewenthal also was a professional chess player. He had to emigrate from Hungary around 48. In 49 he came in USA, and then in 1851 he established himself in Great Britain. Okay, these guys not only were incredible chess players with a lot of ideas, how you see, they really knew what it meant, you know, the words honor and to be honest. Like, so I'll show you games in which you can judge by yourself how many of the ideas they produced were really very modern, and they're used even nowadays. So one of the ideas I'll show in the first game, and not only in one game, just a couple of, maybe a week ago, in the World Rapid Championship, Anand used it to score a very convincing victory in the Italian. And I'm going to show this game between Paulsen and Paul Morphy. And also I'm going to give you some additional information, because really these guys produce a lot of ideas, and many of their ideas are still used very frequently by the best chess players. So the game started e4, e5, knight f3, knight 6, knight c3. Well, Paulsen, he used to play the 4 knights openings, or used to play also the Scotch, quite, in my opinion, modern openings, and he played them quite well. I remember some of his games with exceptional technique. Sometimes he was a little bit too solid, but very, very good player. Well, Morphy, of course, was out of this league. You know, he's like a chess genius. And this is not only my opinion, even Bobby Fischer considered that Morphy is incredible player. Okay, there is no doubt about that. So here Morphy played bishop c5, and this line, after a couple of years, like 13 years, he began to play here Paulsen, the most principled knight takes on e5, which at the beginning of the 20th century, Capablanca used it in 3 games to score 3 victories, and after that he made only 1 draw in simultaneous game. He also had a big advantage. So knight e5, here is the principal move, and there is one curious game which you can even find it. If we have some other occasion, I'll show it. Quite curious, between Paulsen and Anderssen. It was played in their match in 1877. So the curious thing about this game that they played knight takes on e5, and the line with d4, he got, well, in this game, precisely, he didn't get opening advantage, he played some very strange moves. So after knight e5, d4, bishop d6 take on e5, bishop takes on e5, he played knight d5. All right, here bishop d3 in one of these games, because he scored, when started playing knight e5, he scored against Anderssen precisely 3 victories and 1 loss. in this game, which also ended with his victory, he played knight d5, which is not a good move. But what is curious about this game? This is a very unique game because between the 13th and 12th move, the 13th and the 20th move, excuse me, Anderssen played in these 8 moves 7 moves with his rook, which, I mean, I really don't remember a game like that. So he played rook e6, rook b6, rook b4, rook e4, rook h4, rook h5. And we included in one moment a6. So it was a little bit too much, but it also shows, you know, the great imagination. Right? In this game, this was too much, but you can see this game. He got a good opening position, but they let a little bit, you know. But anyway, maybe he was enjoying himself because, you know, this was like the end of his career. He died in 1879. So this is a very curious fact. So after studying this position, he started to play the most principal Paulsen, knight takes on e5. Well, in this game, he didn't play that. He played bishop b5, d6, d4, knight takes on d4, bishop d7. Well, the opening went, you know, quite all right. Nothing surprising here. White played natural moves until a certain moment. You'll see queen f6 by Morphy, castle, knight e7, and now follows a move. It's an obvious positional mistake, but we don't have to be so harsh because it's much more interesting how Morphy played after that. Well, bishop e3, almost all of you here in the hall know that it's a positional mistake because it makes doubled pawns, and one of the details about doubled pawns, they are not only by themselves a weakness, but the squares in front of them are weak squares. So the square on e5 becomes a real, like an eternal square for the knight. And if this knight happen to be exchanged, there will be another piece going on the e5. And when this square is weak, well, there it's much easier to transport your pieces. The pawns on e4 and e3 are quite, you know, easy prey, and also the communication between the pieces is damaged. No, you can't transfer, for example, the rook from d1. You can play rook d3, rook on the king side because there is a pawn on e3. And when there is a blockade on the square e5, it means that, okay, you have like always very big difficulties. What I want to show you in this game is the incredible plan which Morphy demonstrated in this game, which was a great, exceptional feeling about the dynamics of the game. Because from the opening, he got an advantage, but instead of playing like solidly, like many today contemporary very good players will play, he played in an exceptional manner. And it's quite interesting that the team the first game which I remember seeing in this team, how that was used by the biggest name in the chess world. Not only, like I told you, like a week ago, Anand used it. Also, it was used by Kramnik in the 2018 candidate tournament to make like an incredible novelty against Arunian on the 7th move, rook g8 against h3. Also, it was used in a similar pawn structure by the incredible chess genius Bobby Fischer against a structure in which the pawn was on some kind of a hedgehog structure, and he makes king h1, rook g1, g4, rook g3, rook g1, because the hook there was a pawn on f6. Or if it's reverse colors, a pawn on f3. We have this plan. After that, it became a standard one from these hedgehog pawn structures. But most surely, Fischer saw this plan from the genial hand of Morphy. So, bishop e3. Well, nowadays, almost nobody will play that. So now you have a better pawn structure with white. So probably you should play, I just put here a couple of logical moves, like this one, you know, to get out of the pin, and play positionally, trying to restrict the enemy pieces. Like this kind of moves looks logical to me, no? And white has more space, and because of the worse pawn structure, black should be, you know, having problems. But we should not have this incredible play by Morphy if Paulsen didn't play bishop e3. So bishop e3 takes, queen h6. Until now, everything quite easy to understand. Rook e1, knight e5, queen e2, castle, h3, and now, if he just doesn't play very dynamically, of course, black is better. But okay, it's not a question if he's better. How he's going to do something? Because, okay, the opponent probably will try to exchange this knight on e5, and he'll be worse, but okay, maybe the bishop will go to b3, he can have some counter play on the half-open f file. So he had to consider the dynamics of the position, which for me is like astonishing the way he played, because we have to be very sure about the dynamics. So here follows, for your surprise, using the pawn hook on h3, an incredible move king h8, which after this move you already guessed the idea. The idea will be to use the pawn on h3 as a pawn hook and to attack the white king. One of the factors which will help him is the problems with these doubled pawns will be the lack of communication. So you see, you don't have the third rank, no, to communicate, and also some of the squares are much more difficult to be accessible by the white pieces. So of course white reckon the most natural way. They have to, you know, to exchange this knight on e5. If not, they are just attacking with an extra piece, no? Because the bishop on a4, and it's a very interesting his view of dynamics, because you have to do it precisely now until the bishop on a4 is still not, you know, doing a little bit something more useful, no? So king h8, knight d1, g5, knight f8, rook g8. Now, it's not possible to prevent g4, because, okay, if you do it like g4, I'll play queen h4. Okay, I'll show you here some lines, like here, and then rook here, and okay, the whole position seems like, you know, you don't have anything to move. Even I have ideas, no, later, like rook g8, rook f6. If you try mechanically to put something like a physical barrier in front of the g pawn, then of course the problem is that you remain with a very bad piece, no, and on g4 is hanging. So basically this is like a, in my opinion, a resignable position, no. There is like the eternal knight on e5. So he played knight e3. This was the idea, to exchange his knight. g4. So you see, judging the dynamics factor of vision, he's exchanging his knight on e5. He's getting pawn structure at least not better than the white pawn structure, but his pieces get the necessary activity, and just at the right moment, because white need one more tempo to have the bishop on b3 and to start, you know, creating some kind of a counter attack and to have ability to defend. So it's about one tempo, but it's, you know, this incredible feeling of the game to use this plan in this position, because if you get back a little bit, when he started this plan, well, he had like the positional comfort, no? You have a knight on e5, and now you can play rook e8, rook e7, you can again try just positionally to press. But no, he played in a very original way, and that's why I think, at least my respect to this guy, Anders and Morphy, is because I've seen so many ideas in their games, and of course I know this very famous game by Anderssen, The Immortal. I've even had the chance, maybe some other lecture we'll see, to play almost identical ideas as the Immortal game, sacrificing both of rooks. So nowadays we always use the ideas of these guys because they were the pioneers and they were really incredible players. I will never get tired to repeat that. So knight takes on e5. Well, of course here you can just take on g4 because knight takes on g4, and you know, around the white king, it's really, so you have to exchange this knight, take here, d takes on e5. Now, no more, like you see here in the notes, weak square. So now you have to find a way to sustain the attack. By the way, no need to look at many lines. Here I've tried to find some kind of a defense for white, but it was really difficult. So if you try some kind of a blockade, like, okay, you can even put here, let's say, king h2. But of course the dynamics of the position allow them to play not a very difficult sacrifice. No, rook g3 is not too difficult. So rook g3, and now, okay, he's threatening rook g2, and if you accept, bishop h3 also is good. By the way, there is even a better move like this one. You see? And now you can't do anything about the queen g3, no? This is like the big problem. And the big problem is that not only the rook is hanging, but this threat queen g3 is even better than just to, you know, to take the exchange and to have some, although not very big technical difficulties, no? If you play like queen f3, trying to get some kind of a, you know, defense, then he still doubles on the g line, bishop g4, queen g6, and the pressure is too much. And the pawn on h2 stays, no? And the other pawns, now we can see the weak pawns. Now, the pawn on e4 at this precise moment is weak, and it has to do with the effect of the bishop on a4. The bishop, if it was on b3, he still has time to create something, but it's not there. So it's very good feeling about the moment. So he took on g4, bishop takes on g4, and now an incredible move, which over the board is not easy at all, no? Many players here will be happy to play bishop h3, the obvious move, no? Which gives him the chance to exchange queens. And although this seems like a bad endgame, well, it's not as bad as it may look. Take a little bit of time to look at it. Well, here the natural move, now you double the rooks, but he has this defense, and it turns out that he can continue the play. One important detail is that you can play a rook from 8 to g3, because then he can take on h3, no? So you can even lose the game, no? So although the rook ending here after bishop e6, bishop b3 is quite difficult, but you're still in the game. And this precision of Morphy and this feel of dynamics, you know, is like something to remember, because it can be seen very often in his game, very often. So he plays rook g6 here, putting everything on the attack, and he's always one tempo down. Like, for example, to show you, if bishop b3, now bishop h3, of course, you don't have queen f6 anymore, so no queen exchanges, no? And after something like that, let me show you. Here I probably didn't continue. No, bishop f7 I looked, but I looked first at rook e2 to take with the rook, no, not to have the problems with the king. But still, yeah, there was one tactical detail just to show you. This move seems a little bit, you know, passive, but it has a tactical idea. The idea, without even moving on the road, is if you take with the rook on f7, he takes and he has a queen f4 check, no? Picking up the bishop. And if not, he'll be able to play f6, no? And because the situation of the king, you can never create even a threat, you know, on g8. And then, of course, he'll stabilize his material advantage. And if you play with the bishop, there was like queen takes on e4, and you are tied up, and very soon he has additional resources. He'll start pushing the e pawn, and then you can't do anything against so many, you know, threats. It's not only the queen, but then in the a pawn, and this will be like the end. So here Paulsen took on f7, bishop e6. Well, it's a very good sign when you play strong moves with a tempo. This is always a very good sign of your ideas. And this is not only mentioned here by me, I've seen it in many books. So this is like a good sign of your play. So bishop e6, and now I put this like question mark, but already, you know, the situation was quite difficult. Still, it was better because it needed from black to find one good move. I'll show you now. To play queen f3, and after bishop h3, it looks that everything here is clear, and you can cash on the victory with bishop g4 and with material advantage. But I thought that here, having in mind who is playing with black, he would have find the move queen h4, because it does not allow any kind of simplification. Because if you play that, bishop g4 immediately, well, after this move, let me show you here. Well, this endgame, you have chance to survive, and not bad ones at all, no? Not much material, so I'm absolutely sure that Morphy would not have gone into that. He would have played here, the move queen h4. Why? Now you understand why this move is quite unpleasant, because you control the g3 square. So you control more squares, and now bishop g4 is a very unpleasant threat. So basically you don't have anything to do against it, no? And it's a very important detail that you can run, because the second rank is vitally weakened, no? After this, the energy of the black piece is obvious, and it's obvious who is out of job, no? The bishop on a4, who's really has to be fired because he's not doing much help, no? So basically, black was attacking with an extra piece. So here, after he plays bishop b3, I play bishop g4. And because you can play queen g3 and take queen e5, well, this is already a technical position, no, and not really difficult, because you are not only with material advantage, but all of your pieces are on a passive stand, no. So in the game, he played queen c7, probably missing just the tactical shot, but the pressure was so much, and Paulsen, okay, he was a very solid player, but was not like a great tactician. So here, after queen 7, he just missed this simple combination, which gives the game even more flair, no? Here, and oh, here he's getting checkmated by very simple measures. Now here, rook f8. Oh, he resigned on queen h2. But oh, it should have ended in a very simple checkmate. So you see this very original idea, and you think, okay, maybe he produced this idea. No, he followed his own idea in the match with Anderssen. I'm not going to show you the whole game, but just to see the idea, he played the same idea in an even more original position. And this is like, he played the idea to use the pawn hook on h6 with the bishop on the long diagonal by black. So let me show you this game, because it's rather impressive. So, in this match, in 1858, well, it was quite curious that after not having very good opening position, Anderssen started to play, and he played in 3 matches of 3 games of this match. The first move, can you guess which first move Anderssen played against Morphy after he's starting having bad result? A3 in 3 games, which is not, if you think about it, it's not like something impressive, but in many opening, it's not a bad move. So you can play, you're playing virtually with black, but he can play against you the Spanish, the Ruy Lopez. If he plays the Italian, okay, you have bishop a2 or bishop a7 with reverse cards whenever in one tempo, no? So in many openings, for example, Morphy got decent position, but he played against him like e5, c4, and they played the Sicilian, and he had an extra tempo, which is also quite normal for white, no? And with a3, although in the game he won, he also had some problems in the position. He scored 50%. So he lost 1 game, 1 draw, and 1 won. So this game, I just want to show you how he used this idea, and then, quite surprisingly, or maybe not, because I already told you these were great players, Anderssen uses the same idea, which Morphy showed him to him, in 1 simultaneous game. For me, it was a great revelation to find this absolutely forgotten game in which Anderssen uses the idea which he saw by Morphy used against him. So what were the circumstances when he used it? So the opening was the Scandinavian. In one of the games of this match, he played queen takes on d5, knight a3, and he was quite heavily demolished because, okay, the open games and the tactical feel and the whole feeling of the chess game for Morphy was incredible. So this was a rather nice game. This game he tried knight f6, d4, c4, knight c3. He gave quite early the pair of bishops, you see, and white has more space here, but still the plan which he employed, that's why I'm showing you the game, was really something not easy to come up. So this is like the position in which Morphy comes up with a very difficult, plan to exercise, but he already had employed similar idea, no? So he has a pair of bishops, but black is quite solid. It's not obvious how white should proceed, no? And he comes with the very original and maybe the most aggressive plan. Because really, if you look at the position, there is not like an obvious plan, no? You can just play in the center and exchange pieces, because then the question of your pawn structure, which is worse with the dowered pawns, so you have to play for the pair of bishops. But still the position of black is very solid, no? The bishop is on the long diagonal. So how are you going to use the hook on a6? It seems like a joke, no? I mean, it can be used, no? Well, he found here a similar plan, which he already used, and a very original one. So he plays h3. Now he prepares to put the king on a square when he uses the fact that the dark squared bishop of the opponent is exchanged. So the king will feel quite safe on h2. Also, it's a very original idea because it's usually not so easy to start pushing the pawns in front of your king. By the way, for Morphy, this was something which was not too difficult, and he came up with this very original play. So king h2, rook g1, and now we already know his idea. He wants to play g4, g5, and start attacking, and using the pair of bishops, and the power of the bishops in an open position. And the very important fact that the opponent doesn't have a dark squared bishop, which means that his chances to become really problematic and really weak on the dark squares are much, much higher, no? So with this incredible plan, he got a big advantage. Well, g5 maybe you know, you say, okay, he's weakening his king. Yes, but okay, I mean, what do you oppose of the plan? He wants g5, rook j5, rook g1, and the attack keeps building up. Where is your counterplay? So that's why, you know, it's easier to criticize, but it's, for me, it was difficult to come up with something good here for black. g5, f4, and already we know that he has like the initiative. No, he's opening the position. Well, here maybe he could have played, I put like a better move. But for me, from these games, I take, you know, these incredible ideas. So he played rook d8, knight f3, and okay, now it's obviously he had attack. After that, it was a little bit a long game, because in one moment he could have just won technically Morphy. But still, to see this idea employed in this very original position, for me was something very, very special. And even more interesting for me was to see how Anderssen employed against a weaker opponent in a simultaneous the same idea with a crushing result. And then maybe I can even show you how, like I told you, like in a very contemporary game, Anand used it. And not against a weak opponent, it was in the World Rapid Championship, and it was against a Grandmaster with 25 something. And boy, he crushed him completely. So let's see how Anderssen learned from these ideas of Morphy and how he employed them by himself. Now, there is one game here by Anderssen, a very short one, because I repeat, it was played in simultaneous, but you can see the idea in a very clear form. So bishop c4, bishop c5, the Italian castle, knight f6, Anderssen with black, d6, knight c3, h6. This is one of the few occasions when this move has a good prophylactic value, because like, he doesn't want, you know, I don't want to go into deep about the theory. He doesn't want bishop g5, bishop take on f6, knight d5, c3. This in the mainland was played like a Bulgarian grandmaster in Kyiv, and it's a solid for white. So this is one of the very few lines in the Italian. When let's imagine even here. Let me show you. So after knight c3 on the fourth move, let's say here knight f6, d3, Anand plays here a6. I like it. d6 is also solid, but on d6, what I don't like very much about black's opening choice here, although this is one of the most natural moves, that white have two options. One of them is more modern. Karakin used to play here knight a4, bishop b6, a3, and he'll exchange his bishop just at the moment he thinks is the most fortunate, and he keeps his bishop on c4 alive. Well, maybe not enough for advantage, but interesting idea. And the other one, which I think is very solid for white, does not give them real advantage, but I don't like to play, especially this line, is with black. This was used by a grandmaster in Bulgaria quite often, c3. And here black has some problems to get out of this very solid scheme. Now there is a theoretical knight e7, so the main idea is that if you play a6, because you have a pair of bishops here, this is true, but he got very good control of the center, and he can even include rook c1. So rook c1 here is that you don't have time to play bishop g4, because he can play bishop take on a6. So he wins a little bit more time now. He doesn't give you immediate chance to put the pin on g4 and start attacking the dark squares, which is the logical idea, because the dark squares are weakened by the exchange of the dark squared bishop. So this is why I'm showing you this, because this is one of the lines in which very rarely I like to play here the h6, which is considered one of the main theoretical moves. So h6, and I don't allow you bishop g5. And the idea on bishop e3, you play bishop b6, and you want to take in direction the standard direction towards the center. No, if he plays like here, well, I play d6. If you exchange it with a knight, then I'll take with a pawn. I'll play bishop e6. I have the half open file. This has been considered quite a good position for black. Anand played with Kramnik maybe 4 or 5 days ago, this position. So you see that they play this line. He played a6, also a very solid move. Knight d5, h6, and then he proceeded with d6, bishop a7, bishop e6, still not castling, just to see what white is going to do. Well, it has to do with our game, because let's get back to the game from a simultaneous in Rotterdam, in Netherlands. Probably it was that, because Rotterdam, I think, is Netherlands. And he played knight f6, d3, d6, knight c3, his opponent h6. Well, we know that there was a different in strength in this game. But still, to see the same team, here, if we have to be objective, the next move is a mistake. Here it's better, in my opinion, objectively, to play knight a4. Knight a4 and try, you know, to exchange this bishop. When the bishop goes to b6, then you can play, for example, h3, just to be sure that you can exchange this bishop, no? If he plays like, let's say, bishop d4, I still will play c3. I'm not going to, you know, to exchange it for my knight and to get my knight on a4. So this is like, if you place, let's say, okay, I'll show you on the board. Let's say we play knight a4, and you play this pin, which probably was, he was preoccupied. Well, you can play here, I can exchange, take, and now, from positional point of view, in my opinion, the best move is to play like bishop b5. Trying, you know, to create, you know, this positional threat to make your pawns quite weak. So let's say we play queen d6, and okay, now I'll play h3. Now, I would like, you know, to exchange, you know, this bishop, if it's possible. Well, it may not be possible, but at least here, it will be, without the dark squared bishop, the whole team which we will see in the game will not be possible. But his opponent played here h3, very similar, you'll see, to the one contemporary game of Anand, h3, and now you understand that Anderssen not only played with Morphy, but he learned a lot from these matches. There follows g5, very, very modern move, because now, how do you react on g4? Nowadays it's well known that it's difficult, because even if you play knight h2, he still plays g4, and then he plays rook g8 and starts attacking, you know. Let me show you. Even if you take with a piece, play here, rook g8, and because you can play f3 because of this bad bishop on c5, he starts attacking you, and then he'll castle on the long side, and he already started the attack. When white will start the attack, well, maybe some other game, no, not in this one. So this is like one of these situations when you have castled prematurely, which is premature not in itself, but because you have created the so-called pawn hook team, and he uses it against it. And like I told you, it can be seen even nowadays in quite a few interesting games. So after g5, like I told you, if he tries knight h2, I play g4, and if you take with a pawn, I play rook g8, and I start attacking you. Like one example, you play here, I take bishop takes on g4, knight takes on g4, and my attack is going to develop. How you're going to defend against it is not very clear. It's not like a immediate, you know, fiasco, but it's much easier to play this position with black, in my opinion. Well, here the opponent of Anderssen in this simultaneous game decided, okay, I had enough of this bishop on c5, so I'm going to exchange it. But we already have the pawn hook, so the attack is going to develop quite smoothly. g4, very important moment is that if you take now on c5, I can even take first on f3, which after that I'll take on g2, and it's very hard to believe that you can survive with this kind of a king, no? Like here, I take here with the tempo, no? Then take on g2, and okay, I mean, the outcome of the opening is not really impressive. So he took on g4, bishop takes on g4, take on c5, and now, because knight d4 is a really an unpleasant threat, at least he covers the square d4, queen d6, and straight out of the opening, because this is the 11th move, it's clear that white position lacks any kind of productive ideas. He's going to castle, he's going to play rook g8, and probably very soon he's going to have an easy attack. This attack can be held by doubling on the g file, by pushing the h pawn. Where you're going to hide with the king becomes, in my opinion, a mystery. So here, okay, and there was like a clear difference in the strength of these two chess players. So bishop e3, castle. Now, the rest of the game was just pure fun for Anderssen. Now, king h1, I gave it as a weak move, but it's still the occasion I really can't suggest something productive. The position is very bad. I don't see any something can... So at least I understand that. He wants to get out of the possible piece on the g line, but it's not helping much. Rook g8, not the only move, because the situation of the king here can be helped, you know, just to play knight h7, knight g5, and then if you take on g5, you're opening even the h file, which will be even a more unpleasant checkmate. But he played it in a rather casual way, you know, rook g8, and after d4 he started collecting everything. Now here, queen g6, bishop d3, queen h5, and okay, the rest is just, you know, Okay, it was a simultaneous game, but still the idea which he employed was quite impressive. So when we talk about Anderssen, let me just show you here by memory. I think in 1851, the same year which he played the immortal game, because in the next year he played the so-called evergreen game in the Evans. So this game was played with a rather solid opponent, Loewenthal, which Loewenthal, we already mentioned him. He lost with almost the same result against Morphy, you know, and he has scored some victories in one tournament. At the end, he won against Anderssen, I don't remember the year, and he won the tournament. And this was not the only tournament he won, but he was a rather solid player. But this game is rather impressive. Anderssen was with white against Loewenthal, and they played the traditional and a rather good and very interesting line, the ever popular Evans gambit. Well, nowadays, of course, we know more, but still the game has a rather modern feeling. So c3, and now bishop a5, the most solid defense, not the only one. d4, and okay, it was before Lasker invented here the position of defense with d6, which is probably the most solid. Now d6, and the idea of d6 is that, you know, they are even immediately ready to give up the pawn. Okay, here to give up the pawn back on this move, but to have a comfortable endgame with better pawn structure. No, this is not a lost endgame for white, but okay, it's quite a pleasant one for black. This was the idea which the second world champion Lasker came up. And okay, Lasker, you know, made the chess to progress even further, no? Because if we compare the first and the second world champion, let's talk just a little bit of them. Well, Steins was the first guy who said that there were some kind of a rules which sometimes we have to follow. Well, he was a rather principled guy that sometimes he didn't follow the rules, because in Evans, in the match with Giuoco, he played a couple of opening position, and he scored like 50%, in which if you look at the position, you have a very strong desire to resign immediately. I mean, all the pieces were on the back rank, but because he considered it a matter of honor, he played this position. So he was quite inventive, but okay, sometimes he get out of his period. But he understood that there are some principles of the positional game. But the first world champion after him, Lasker, went with the chess much further, because he understood the chess is much more complex. That sometimes you have to play in a different way, that there is not only one good move, that there are many interesting ways to play a position. He was much more flexible and much more universal player. Oh, that's why chess progressed. So let's get back to our game which I want to show you. So e takes on d4, play Loewenthal, and now castle. Well, here of course there are so many famous games, like d takes on c3, queen b3. I know even one very almost like till the end of the game, one line with queen f6, very interesting. Of course, Fischer Fine, the friendly game, which Fine was crushed, was in this line. Now with knight c3, knight f6, knight d5. It's a very famous game because it's the Fischer 60 memorable games. Well, in our game, Loewenthal played a very solid line. So that's why the game is very interesting. He played d6, takes on d4, Anderssen, bishop b6. Well, now let's take just a little bit of a second. What would you play here with white? Because the next move which Anderssen played showed how versatile a player he is, because he's mostly known for all of his sacrifices. I just forget to mention that he invented also many chess problems. So Anderssen was a rather creative guy. So here, what should we play? If you play knight g5, well, he play knight h6, and then we finish development, and we have problems on the square d4, no? And in this game, obviously, he didn't want to develop his bishop on b2, because then the compensation is not so obvious. If we try to play like, let's say, queen b3, the problem is that he can play knight a5. And now if you take on f7, king f8, and we can defend the bishop, no? The only square is on d5, and then if you play knight f6, and we may resign. No, we are losing a piece. So he came up with the idea to make a prophylactic move in this precise moment when he sacrificed a pawn in the opening, because Evans is a very sharp line. But with the idea he insisted he wanted to develop this bishop on g5, not on b2. And he comes with this prophylactic move, h3, which does not allow, you know, to be pinned the knight on f3, so there will be not possible to to exploit some weakening on the d4 square, and also not only a perfect move but a waiting. He waits for knight f6 and to play bishop g5. Well, here Loewenthal played knight f6, bishop g5, and this is probably okay. Not bishop g5. So I told you I know it by memory. But bishop g5 here will be premature, and of course Anderssen played a much better move, because if you play now bishop g5, he'll have time for h6, and now he can use the already mentioned theme. No, he can play g5 here, and after bishop g3, you have a rather pleasant choice. Now you can play g4 using the pawn hook theme on h3, or you can even take the pawn, like as I'm seeing here on the board. I can just castle, and when you take here, d5, and okay, it's hard to believe that you're not much worse out of the opening, no? Because you're not only down in material, but some of your squares, like the light one, are not going to exist. No, on knight f6, he played knight c3. And here, one of the very few mistakes Loewenthal made in this game, because it was like a difficult game, he should have played also, not unobvious at all, in my opinion, prophylactic move h6. It seems slow, no? Because they've played a sharp line against you, and h6 kind of does not look natural, but you want to avoid the bishop to go to g5. Now at least if the bishop goes to a3, well, he can have some kind of ideas like e5, but you can go with your piece a little bit on a more passive position, but then you want bishop f5, and you have a solid position. You have an extra pawn, he has some compensation, but okay, maybe it's not something dangerous, no? If he plays like d5, for example here, okay, after h6, yeah? He plays d5 here. You can play knight a5. Also, you can play knight a5, because I don't want, after knight e7, sometimes, to have bishop b2 and to press on f6. It was even like in this position, before h3, just to give you one more data. You can play here d5. Let me just show you. So now I think that he should have played knight a5. The idea is that I don't want, if I put knight e7, I mean, on bishop b2, I don't want to play f6, no. It's a little bit, and I don't want, of course, to play knight f6 and to let him take on f6, because then he'll have positional compensation, no? Which I don't like, to have this damaged pawn structure. So if you ask me on d5, I'll play knight a5, just because I attack the bishop, and then I want to develop my knight on f6 and to castle. And then the compensation, well, my knight is on a5, a little bit not on best position, but the price is a pawn, which is okay with me. And if you play something like, let's say, check, and I push here, let's say you take, and you play here to keep me on c6, well, now I can probably even develop a knight on e7. Because if you attack my pawn, I can defend it with bishop c5, no? And I keep a healthy extra pawn, no? And I don't see what you can really attack. So your compensation is kind of a dubious one. So he played knight c3, and here Loewenthal made one of the very few mistakes, castle. Well, a seemingly very natural move, no? There followed bishop g5 by Anderssen. Well, now the pin with the bishop on b6 is kind of unpleasant, but you think, okay, you play h6, bishop h4, now he's threatening knight d5, so you can, just play something, and he plays g5. Well, probably on g5, you know what he played, but this is like the kind of a sacrifice on g5 when it's not clear at all, no? I mean, who is guarding the d4 square, no? So it's completely positional and a very well thought sacrifice. Well, it has to be made, no? So knight takes on g5. Well, here, take on g5 is not the only move. You can take bishop on d4, but that, I think, knight takes on f7, take knight d5. Similar motives like in the game, I think. He took on g5, bishop takes on g5, and now bishop takes on d4. So for the piece, how many points you've got? 0. So the attack is completely positional, and it's not obvious at all. Well, the first move is obvious. What do you think that Anderssen played here? Yes?
Knight d5.
Yeah, knight d5. So you have to keep him on the pin, no? Knight d5. Now, it's very hard to suggest a much more natural than the move he played. And I think the move he played is the best one. So you have somehow to try to avoid, this knight on d5. So he plays bishop e6. It's really hard for me to come up with something better. So, okay, bishop takes on a1 is like the perfect way to a suicidal mission, no? I mean, then the black position explodes immediately, no? So bishop e6 here, and now let's take a look. What do you think that here Anderssen played? Just a little bit. How he proceeded to attack? Because it's not obvious, no? It's not. And he had a very, like I told you, a very contemporary idea. He uses the rook for the famous rook lift, and it seems kind of it needs some time. So he plays rook b1, but still the threat is an obvious one. He wants rook b3, but it's not very easy to find like an answer, no? Because okay, the very important fact is the bishop on d4 is hanging. So if you take on d5, you're not happy because he takes with the pawn, and then the bishop on d4 is really hanging, no? And he wants rook b3, rook g3. So you know what is going to happen, but the question is how you're going to react. Well, this was the only real mistake, but a hard one. Here, of course, many years after that, we can say that maybe it was possible, but these are hard lines to sacrifice the queen. In my opinion, this was the only chance, but not easy at all. So knight takes on d5, probably the only move here. Take here, and you use knight c3. Still, these lines are quite difficult. Now you can play even queen d3 and protect your bishop, but this move, let's say queen h5, and then you take on c4. Well, even this position is not easy to play. Here, for example, you have to play the king on a light square, because if you play it on h8, bishop f6 is with a check, no, with a tempo, and then the knight on c3 is hanging, no? So you have to play here, and after bishop f6, you can hold on this position, although even now it's not clear, no? It still seems like the black king is vulnerable. I've analyzed this position and I understand and how they can hold it, but it's not easy, no? So it's like, in my opinion, not honest at all to blame here Loewenthal for not playing the move like knight d5. It's a hard move, it's a difficult one, and it doesn't seem still like, you know, the position is beyond control. But still he played here rook b8, like defending the pawn, and probably not seeing like immediate threats. But after rook b3, it becomes evident that the threats are very strong, no? Because now rook g3 is like a terrible threat. Even if you play, just let me show, even if you play bishop e5, the same move is possible. It's not the only one, but even you can play even this one, no? Rook g3, which shows, you know, how strong was this positional idea of the piece sacrifice. Because if he takes, well, I take on f6, no? With a check. And here, okay, of course it's essential that if you take here, and you take here, you got checkmate, no? Because the bishop has to control the g4 square. So here, after rook b3, in my opinion, there is no possible defense. Well, the end of the game was immediate, but I don't see how you react on the rook g3 threat, no? He played king h7, and after bishop take on f6, very simple finish, no? Very easy one. Bishop take here, check on h5. If you go to g7, rook g3 is the end, no? He goes here, knight take on f6, and here Loewenthal resigned. Although, okay, let me show you just one line because it's a curious. Let's say you take, I give check, you play queen g7, and okay, now if you take the queen, give check, take on e6, it's an easy technical position. I mean, this one should be an easy one. Let's say check, let's say take here, and play f4. Okay, this is a lost position, there is no doubt. But my question to you, just to make a little bit of an exercise, in this position, can you find something even more unpleasant, which I like? Something which includes the rook on f1 in a very curious way. So what other move you can play here except taking the queen? Yes?
Rook c1?
Yeah, but let me show you this interesting idea. So you can even play using the pin, queen h6, forcing him to, it has to take here, no? You take, and now even the rook on f1 starts playing, which can be seen like if you take here, I give you a check, and now of course, if you have time, you can start pondering. Do I play rook f4, do I play rook f6? The good thing is just not to waste all of your time, because it's the same. This game, in my opinion, has a very contemporary feeling. And okay, in some occasions, or maybe even if you want today, I can show you, at least without knowledge, just to see one game which was played, like I promised you, on Anand. So it was played, let's see now, it's like a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks maybe ago, or maybe 3 weeks now. Anand with a Grandmaster with 25-14. So the same pawn hook team. Let's see, and okay, all of this has been played before, but still the game is quite impressive, no? Using the pawn hook team. Let me show you this game from the World Rapid Championship. Bishop a7 and now h3. This has been played before. It's known that it's an inaccuracy in this moment, no? Because it can be used, the fact that you create a pawn hook and black has not castled. Because okay, if black has castled, very rarely you can start pushing pawns in front of your king. Well, Morphy could do it. But okay, he had the special circumstances just to invent an incredible idea, and also the opponent didn't have the pair of bishops. No, he didn't have control of the dark square, so he can hide his king on h2. Here, of course, if black is castled, you don't push h6 and g5 because, you know, it can be considered like a complete kamikaze style, you know. But okay, here Anand played h6. This position, the idea with g5 has been played even after knight d2, which is slightly better version for white, but still an unpleasant position. So g5, well, this was an unpleasant surprise, but this is not like a new idea. It has been played. And here, the whole game, Anand played not only very well, but in some moments he played very solidly. He was completely winning, and he didn't want to give him not even a chance. In one moment, he had a very simple sacrifice of queen, and he saw it, I'm sure. But, you know, just because the previous time I talked with you about the greatest losses, so you can learn from these guys to be practical, because he's such an incredible tactical player, Anand, but when he had everything on a plate, he didn't want to play for some spectacular effects, no? He just knew that everything is done. You'll see the end of the game. So g4, okay, if you take on a7, I'll take on f3. So we already know this from the Anderssen game, no? I take on e3 in this moment, just to have knight takes on g4 with a tempo, no? Okay, if you take with a pawn, I take on g4, I still have the attack, and your pawns are even worse. And what is doing the rook on e1? Now, this motive to take on e3 when the rook is on e1, or when the black rook is on e8, and the bishop on e6 is a very typical, you know, because when he takes with a pawn, he has to use time to move the rook on the half-open f-file, no? So, bishop e3, rook e3, knight here, queen f6, and now you just castle along and starts attacking, no? And it's rather natural. It's quite curious that in this position, in a blitz game, a much better player, a Chinese grandmaster, at least he immediately senses the danger, and he tried to run immediately with the king. It's still a worse position, but okay, this makes more sense, no? Starting to evacuate the king. You're still far away from, you know, getting success, but it makes sense. Well, in this game, in the rapid tournament, he just tried to defend here with pieces, but you don't have enough pieces, no? Rook here, and the attack is obvious. It resembles quite a bit the game of Anderssen, only here the opponents are slightly different. So the guy with white is not such a weak player, but still, you know, the same motive. So black is attacking like free, and white does not have any play at all. So it's not surprising that they got demolished, no? So knight d5, queen g7. Now the attack, no, he starts threatening, you know, just to get with the knight and mate. Still, from probably visually, it was difficult here when he's starting just to jump with the knight, like knight f6, and threatening checkmate, just to play a calm move like, you know, queen e2. It's still a bad position, but okay. When he's threatening, you know, just to open and to threaten your mate, just not to play g3 is difficult, no? It's still a strong attack, because this one, no doubt that, but at least you have not created another pawn hook, no? But it's much easier to give advice than to play like that. He played g3, and we already know h5. Now he's creating h4, and after that, because if immediately you sacrifice on f2, he can take, he can go to e3, there is no immediate, you know, loss. But after I play here, if you go to h4, knight takes on f2, so he's attacking with winning all of your pawns for free, without giving you anything, no? So that's why here the situation is completely, you know, beyond any control. So he played king f1, well, we already know that king h4, h4, the same motive. If you take with a knight, knight takes on f2, no? Complete annihilation. Took with a pawn. Now, of course, rook h4. He saw rook h4. He could have played it. But why to play rook h4 and, you know, to make effect? No, he just continues attacking positionally. He just opened that file and then puts his piece and gives him checkmate. And I don't mean that he didn't play that. Further on in the game, just a couple of moves ahead, you'll see that he has a very easy sacrifice and he still didn't go for it. And this is Anand, who sees tactics in milliseconds, no? f5, bishop f5, rook f8, everything very natural, no? Bishop d5. Now, rook f3 he could have played, but okay, why to complicate your life? I mean, no doubt about that. He played knight f6. The attack is completely clear. Okay, this is the moment where having completely winning position, and I'm sure that he saw queen g5. Okay, this is not difficult for now at all. Queen g5, and after bishop f3, you got checkmated, no? Or maybe he missed it. Okay, it could happen. But okay, the position was so winning that there is even no need. Okay, just let me. So the attack is on the board. The only thing is just not to meet something very simple. So if you take on h4 to give him a chance to play knight f5. Well, still you have check, but okay, the king is going to start running. So he plays a very simple move, queen g6, and then the mate is on the board. So you don't need to sacrifice anything, no? So that's why here king e2, rook h4. Well, this is like no need to command. No, everything is falling apart. And then is queen h5. Here knight g4. You know, not giving him a single chance. And here he resigned because, okay, the rook on a1 till the end of the game was, you know, not doing anything, and deservedly loses all his pieces at the end, no? Or he got checkmated, okay, whatever you want. But the same thing in a very recent game. And I think that many of these things is because we have to give thanks to all these guys in the Romantic era, because they were incredible players, and not only because of the tactics which are they mostly renowned, because of many positional ideas. Because both Morphy and Anderssen, I've seen many incredible positional ideas from them. And further on, when we continue with this team, I'll show you even more. Because okay, the guys really can play incredible chess, and they have to invent everything. They couldn't, you know, go and check with the computer. They couldn't. They just had to play it on the board. And that's why nowadays we have the chess so developed, because they put the foundation of all of our knowledge. And I think we have to give them many thanks for their contribution to chess. And I hope that they'll never be forgotten, because they really deserve to always remember them. So thank you, and we'll continue the next time.